Hey there, my name is Mackenzie and welcome to my little corner of the internet. If this is the first video you're watching, this is a part 2 of sorts to a video I did covering in depth the timeline of the original series. Much of what I'll be talking about in this video won't make sense without the context of that one, so I'll link that here for those of you who haven't seen it, and I do recommend that you watch it before this one. To those of you who did watch the previous video, welcome back. Let's get to talking about Jewel Joker. When leading into Jewel Joker, we're actually backtracking a little bit, and starting off before the Guardians have graduated elementary school and prior to Amu's eggs disappearing, and we're already retconning a shit ton of stuff right off the bat. Kaidi is introduced as a Guardian, even though he would have still been back in his hometown during this time. We're also introduced to Daya, who would have still been asleep according to the original narrative, but she's awake and very talkative. Tadase shows up and informs Amu that she's needed in Tsukasa's office, and she's told that she'll be transferring to Seo Academy's sister school, Arcana Academy, to attend middle school there alongside Tadase. Tsukasa tells them that they'll be staying there for a semester at most, and it's not permanent, but there's some really fishy stuff going on over there that he wants them to look into. So we're then immediately brought to their arrival at the school with only the information that they came there without telling any of their friends where they were going. We're gonna ignore how little sense that makes because they still had to graduate with the rest of their class and have a week of spring break, which was a hell of a lot of time to tell their friends. Basically, the school is a special one for kids with guardian characters, and the mystery around the school is the main plot this time, and the embryo plot from the previous series is pretty much tossed aside in favor of the Arcania jewels that legend has it, those who obtain all four will be granted with a special wisdom. Amu is tasked to find out what the mystery behind them is. I won't go into details about the story from here, as I'll talk about the lore and the story between the original series and Jewel Joker again in a future video, but as it relates to our timeline that we formed, I would like to talk about the timeline at the start of Jewel Joker. At the end of the first day at the new school, Amu is on the phone with Rima, and she asks Amu if she's been in touch with Nagi or Ikto overseas. So this is retcon number 3. Nagi was back and decided that he'd remain in Japan and graduated with the rest of the characters at the time of the series ending, so what's he doing overseas? He has no reason to be there. Amu remarks that she hasn't seen Ikto in so long, but it's been like 2 weeks max since Ikto left if Amu's first day of school is at the beginning of April like it should be. It's like Peach Pit's trying to make stuff not make sense. We're told Ikto is studying music abroad, which is a slight but harmless change from him joining his father's old traveling orchestra group. We also get a brief flashback to their moment at the abolished amusement park from when Ikto returns for the wedding in volume 11, so I guess this conversation still canonically happened. Amu also has a new fancy smartphone now instead of the flip phone she had before, so that's definitely not 2008. It's 2024 now, I guess. I mentioned in the previous video about Peach Pit missing the little details and how often that creates small and big issues with continuity, and this is another example of a small issue that could have been avoided with some creativity. I think it would have made sense for Amu to still have her old flip phone, and when her dorm leader takes her phone to replace it with a school-issued one, Amu could remark that she hasn't been able to upgrade to a newer model of phone while Tadase explains the features the phone has. Amu would now have an in-universe reason for a phone upgrade that makes sense to both her and the reader without having to address the year the series takes place. I said in the previous video that things like technology that characters use or don't use, the clothes that they wear, and the pop culture references that they make can help us determine roughly the time frame that we're looking at. That will be interesting later, and this is what I meant by that. Jewel Joker has had many moments where our characters are utilizing things like social media and video calls like they would in this day and age, but this isn't something we ever saw them do in the original series because it wasn't so popular at the time. I didn't properly circle back around to this in my original script, so I wanted to do so here while I have the chance. Anyway, let's get back to it. Rima and Nadeshiko join Tadase and Amu at the new school, and Nadeshiko explains that she was studying abroad, but it's currently spring break there, so she returned to Japan to help out. Again, not lining up with the original series at all. Earlier when Rima and Nagi were discussing what to do, Rima mentions that she hadn't heard back from Amu after the first day, so they've been here at least 3 to 4 days before Rima and Nadeshiko show up. The characters all have a good time together and at one point say that it's been a while since they last all worked together on something, but in reality, it's been like 3 months since the end of the Easter final battle, and even more recently since they all worked together on the wedding project thing. in the original timeline. Kukai picks up Ito at the airport, and he sets his sights on heading to Arcania Academy. Once he arrives, it's explained that the principal of the school is friends with his father, and that when Ito called to discuss something, he was invited to test out their high school division that's in development. He clarifies that he's only here while the band he's touring with is taking a break, which ties into the original series but kind of contradicts the studying abroad thing. You can't be studying abroad at a university for music and traveling the world with an orchestra. You have to pick one. He also added that there's no classroom or curriculum, so he's just going to be roaming around the halls of the school for like a week while wearing the sample design for the high school division. Again, Peachpit could not be bothered to make Ito's return make any amount of sense, and I guess since it's aimed at kids, they don't really need to, because they're not going to spend hours over analyzing all of this like I, a grown adult almost 30, am doing in my bedroom at 1 in the morning. Ito further explains that he had a dream about Yoru that he's had a few times, and he believes Yoru is at this academy and in need of help, so he's come to save him. Utao will be joining him as the first girl in the high school division to help him with this task. And at least this part makes sense because Utao is actually a first-year high school student at this point. For the rest of Volume 2, Ito teases Amu, and there's remarks flown around about how long they've been apart, but according to our timeline, he's been gone at most a few weeks. Maybe a month if he left like a week or two before Amu's graduation. But it's unlikely he'd have left sooner than that, or else he wouldn't have graduated from high school himself. Like, they're acting like it's been months since he's been gone, or even years. Throughout the first 2 volumes, there's moments where Amu acknowledges the Nagi Nadeshiko situation, and also Yoru being gone. But Amu wouldn't know about either of those things without the events of the last volume, and at this point it seems like that's been axed. It seems they removed events like the Star Road adventure and the wedding, but kept elements of them separate from their original narrative. Yoru having left Ito, Nikaido and Sanjo being newlyweds is mentioned, and the egg's cradle is briefly covered as well. But the events of the wedding and the Star Road adventure seems to have been altered or removed altogether, as neither is mentioned, and some of the events have changed, like Kairi being here when he shouldn't be, and Nagi suddenly being overseas. All of this sort of creates a story that no longer includes the events between their graduation and the end of the series. Amu losing her eggs, her adventure on the Road of Stars and everything within that, and the wedding that they all attended. That just doesn't sit right with me, as I felt that this was a really good ending that tied up a lot of loose ends but also left some unknowns to be explored should Peachpit choose to pick the series back up again down the line. Near the end of the original series, Peachpit were asked in a fan letter how they decide where the story is going to go, and Banri revealed that she reads the previous volumes over again and then decides where to take it from there. Given how intricate Peachpit stories often are, I figured that they had more solidly planned things out before they even begin volume 1 of a series, but this info does make more sense when we consider a lot of the continuity issues and plot holes that riddled this series, especially in the last 4 volumes. I figured that they would have reread the series before they started this new one to refresh their memories, but honestly this whole thing kind of reads like they didn't even bother to do that. I reread the entire 12 volumes in the span of a week, so you know what I mean? Like, just go do it. And just base things off of their memory of how things ended alone. Nagi being overseas, Kairi being a current guardian at the time our gang is graduating, the fact that they haven't even graduated yet, and all of Amu's guardian characters being out and about, all feels like they misremembered how the story ended. That, or they decided that the way that they ended things doesn't mesh well with the direction they'd like to take the series from here, so they've just deliberately made these changes and cherry-picked elements that did fit this new narrative. Yoru being gone, Amu already knowing about Nagi's secret, and Daya being awake and active. I think this is the most likely case because it's kind of ridiculous to think that they wouldn't have bothered to take the time to refresh their own memories of the storyline, but I don't really like this option more than the other one, to be honest. As a Zelda fan, I'm no stranger to retcons and timeline shenanigans and previously established lore being bulldozed in favor of exploring new ideas that don't mesh well with former canon. Nothing can hurt me anymore. But I was disappointed to see this happen with Shugo Chara because it didn't need to. It could have started off with the kids entering middle school on their first day of orientation and being told that they're transferring. That way we could leave everything that the original series established intact and still leave room for Jewel Joker to do its own thing. Amo and Tadase being told that they're transferring to Arcana Academy immediately on day 1 of the new semester would make the whole "we didn't have time to tell anybody" thing make a lot more sense. Kaidi's presence as the Jack Chair would line up properly. Rima and Nagi could still come to help out because Nagi has no reason to be overseas. That doesn't serve the plot at all. Amu would still have all her guardian characters awake and active, and her knowledge of Yoru's departure and Nagi's double life would all make sense, even if they never directly mention the wedding or the Star Road adventure that those events come from. Setting aside the fact that Ito actually should still be in high school, technically, this would have lined up perfectly if they had just retconned that mistake that they already made. They could have had him doing a gap year overseas or something. Like, they could have like retconned it something like that. But like, even if they didn't bother to do that because they're not aware they even made that mistake in the first place, probably, they could still have him show up as they've already laid out, because he is technically still 18, he's still high school age, and also, he's only out of high school for like 4 weeks, so it's not like he's been out of high school for years or anything. But I'd have done it differently and had Ito show up as like the music teacher or something. That allows them to be a part of the school system and investigate the situation with Yoru from the inside, while also being easily integrated into the main cast in a way that actually makes sense. This would have satisfied OG fans and also the new readers of the series that are discovering it through Nakayoshi magazine, who are gonna go back and read the original series, and would allow them to continue into Jewel Joker without getting that sour taste in their mouth that only comes from unnecessary retcons. Whether you're an old fan or a new fan, nobody likes unnecessary retcons. But alas, we have what we have, and I'm sure there's going to be many more retcons as the story continues to progress, and I look forward to analyzing the shit out of those in future videos. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more videos like this about Shugo Chara from me, please feel free to hit that like button to let me know how you feel if you're too shy to comment. And of course, I look forward to fangirling with you guys down in the comment section if you feel comfortable engaging down there. You can also hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss anything from me in the future if you'd like. In addition to my Shugo Chara series, I also do videos about Japanese pop culture and entertainment, Japanese language learning, cozy vlogs, and videos about what I love, what I do, and what I create. I'm an artist, so you'll see a lot of my art woven into my content as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you around my little corner of the internet again real soon.